Hey, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Build It with Tim. On today's episode, we're talking about Twitter and OpenAI, and we're using these two together inside of a Tadabase application, giving us the ability to automatically generate, schedule, and publish tweets. All right, so we're building out three different kind of pieces to this application. In this first one, we're going to automatically generate um, tweet content and images based on particular prompts. So we have these two prompts, one for an image, one for content, where we want to create a tweet to announce updates to our PDF reports. So you can see here in our tweet preview, we have the actual generated content, we have the generated image, then we'll have the ability to delete the tweet if OpenAPI has given or OpenAI has given us complete nonsense, which is totally fine. And then we also have the ability to edit it if we want to make subtle changes and then actually select a particular value to publish that tweet. Okay, our next little piece of this that we built out is a tweet scheduler. So this is a little bit more of a manual process where we're not relying on OpenAI to generate all of our tweet content for us. We're writing this ourselves and we're scheduling that particular tweet. So when I save this form on the left, we're going to have a record now that contains all of the information for our tweet and scheduled for a future date. Okay, so this tweet is scheduled to go out on December 16th. And what's going to happen in the background is every day we're going to run a task, a scheduled task, to look at all of our scheduled tweets. And if it meets a certain criteria, like it's scheduled for today, then it will automatically send this tweet. So on December 16th at 10 a.m., this tweet will be live for my test account and without any further input from me. Right, and last but not least, we're looking at our tweet dashboard. Okay, so when we are sending these tweets, we are saving a bunch of Twitter values back to our Tadabase application so that we can go and find out more information about these particular tweets, such as the total favorites, total retweets, and information like that. So you can see all of the tweets that I have sent so far are listed below, and we will set up some charts and some top tweets so that we'll be able to see which tweet has the most amount of retweets, most amount of likes, which category is performing better than others, and of course the list of all of the tweets with the ability to filter any of this particular information. All right, so that's what we're doing today, and we'll jump over to the builder now and we'll get started. Okay, so the way this is going to work is actually in two separate pieces. Piece number one is going to be to automatically generate a tweet and an image using OpenAI and then giving the user the ability to publish or send that tweet directly from the application. And piece number two is going to be more manually creating the tweet and scheduling the tweet. Okay, so we're going to schedule the tweet for a later date, and then we're going to run a task on schedule that's going to look for any tweets that are scheduled to be sent out on that particular day, and it will then send them. Okay, so I'm going to build these two things kind of separately, but it's actually going to come from the same table. Okay, but I guess I just want to point out that even though these are two separate things and we're building them in one separate table, you can kind of intertwine these however you may find necessary. But anyways, let's just get started with actually building out the data table to hold all of the information for our tweets. So we're going to add a new table, and this is just going to hold, it's going to hold a lot of different information about the actual tweet and then some like utility fields to help us in the application. So number one, we're going to have a tweet title. Okay, so we're going to be able to just, in order to identify the tweets in a user-friendly way, we're going to give each tweet an actual like small title. All right, and we're just going to continue adding all of the necessary fields that we need for this, and I'll explain what each one is and why we need it. So we have the tweet title, and then we actually have a field for the actual tweet. And we're going to use a long text for this, even though it should only be, up to 140, whatever they're up to for tweets, 240 characters. So we're actually going to hold the tweet content in this case, okay? And then the next one is going to be a date time for created. So when is this tweet actually created? And then when is the tweet actually tweeted. Okay, so it's two different date time fields, one for when the tweet is created and one for when it's actually published. The next one we're going to do is actually a status field to let us know whether or not this has been, whether this is unsent or sent. Okay, and the next two are going to be used specifically for OpenAI. Okay, so the way OpenAI works is you feed OpenAI a prompt and then it's going to return a response. So we need two fields in order to input the actual prompt. So the first one will be, let's see, OpenAI tweet prompt. And then the same thing is true for the images. When we want to generate an image, we're using their DALL-E service, and we need to do a prompt for the image as well. Okay, so we're going to create these two fields, and this is just going to be for like an initial record intake process where we actually fill out these prompts. It generates everything that we need. We save those values back somewhere else, and then these fields aren't actually used in the rest of the process. It's only used initially. Okay, and how this stuff gets returned is the actual tweet itself is going to be returned as text. The image is going to be returned with a unique link, but that link is actually going to expire. So we're going to build a way to manage that later on in the application. But for now, we need to then create fields to store these two responses. So the first one, the OpenAI tweet that actually gets generated, we can actually save that directly back to the tweet content field. And that's what we're going to do. For the image, we're going to do kind of a two-part thing here. The first part is we're going to save the link that the associated with the image back to a link field. Okay, so Twitter image link, tweet image link. That's fine. And we are going to just make sure we format this to display the link as an image because we want to be able to preview this image before we just blindly send it. Trust me, some of the images that come back from here are just wild. So we want to actually make sure that this image is something we want to make public. And if it is, then we can send it out. Now, the next place we need to save that same link is to an actual text field because we're going to use the link to preview the image to the user, but we're going to use the text field to send to Twitter. Okay, so this is going to be tweet image text. So we have the tweet image link, tweet image text. Okay, the next one we're actually going to do another link field in this case, and we're going to do the tweet. We're going to do the tweet, actually the actual URL. So the link directly to the tweet after it gets sent or posted. So we'll do tweet URL, and that's good for that. Now the next one we're going to do is the ID. So these are all Twitter responses now. So we're going to do the tweet ID. We need to save the actual ID of the tweet that comes back. We're also going to be able to check how many retweets and how many favorites or likes any given tweet has. We're going to build out a dashboard to do that. And we want to be able to save these values. So we'll do total retweets as a number field and another number field of total favorites. Okay, and the last three fields that we're going to do are for the more manually created tweets that are going to be scheduled. Okay, and what we're going to use for that is we're actually going to use a file field. So in this case, because we're not using OpenAI to generate images, we just want to be able to upload an image that we may have stored on our computer. We're just going to use a file field. So we'll just call this tweet image, and we will make sure that this is formatted as an image. And we're going to have a select field, whether or not this is scheduled. And this, of course, the answers will be yes or no. And we can give colors to this if we want to. Okay, so then lastly, we want to know when it's scheduled for. Okay, scheduled for. And this is just a straight date field, not a date and time field. It's just a date field. Okay, so this should be it for our tables. Now, I know I explained what each one does, but it's going to start to make more sense once we explore the pipes themselves. Okay, so let's navigate to the pipe section now, and we're going to search for our two pipes that we have or that we need for this application. Number one being Twitter, right? The point of this is to manage tweets, schedule tweets, create tweets, and send them out, get information on that tweet. So we're going to need to install the Twitter pipe. To do this, we're just going to authorize and install. Make sure you're logged into Twitter on the account that you want to use, and then just click Authorize App, and you're good to go. So let's jump into the Twitter pipe here for just a moment so that we can I'll just show you the pipes that we're going to use and the values that are going to be sent. All right, so the two tweets that we're going to actually be using here are send a tweet with an image, and this requires only two record values that we have to send. Number one is the actual tweet content itself. So right, we created that field to hold the tweet content, whether it's manually inputted or it's generated by OpenAI. They both will fill out that particular value, and we'll make sure that that's included in this pipe. And the next one is the file URL. So again, when Dolly creates the image, so when OpenAI is generating that image for us, we need to save that link back to our application into the specific fields we created to hold the link and also display the link. And when we are manually sending tweets, we are uploading a file. We can send the file directly to this particular parameter. The second one that we're going to use here is get tweet status, where all we have to feed it is a tweet ID. It goes and looks up the tweet by its ID and returns the various statuses. Okay, like in our case, what we're looking for is total retweets and total favorites. Okay, all right, so the next pipe we're going to use is the OpenAI pipe. OpenAI, okay. We're going to install this, and we need to include our API key. So you're going to navigate to OpenAI's website and sign up for their services and generate an API key. Okay, once you have your API key, we're going to paste it here and choose Install. Okay, so now we're ready to actually go into our page builder and start building out all of the ways that our users are going to be interacting with this application to use the various workflows that we've created in our uh, data builder here. All right, so the first one that we're going to do is the actual tweet generator. So this is going to be the AI generated tweets with the tweet content and the generated image. We're going to use a form component to do this, and then we need a component to display the actual tweets before we send them, right? So you're going to want to check these tweets before you send them. And we're probably going to want to include a way to edit the tweet before they get sent in case something isn't worded right or you want to change out the image, whatever you have to do there, then we're going to build a way to do that. So the first page, we're just going to call this tweet generator. We'll make sure we add it to our menu, and we're just going to start with a blank page. And on this page, the first thing we're going to do is include our form. So this is going to be the form to create a new tweet. And we're going to link this to the pipe so that the pipe runs when this form is submitted. Okay, so we're going to include three things here: the actual tweet title, and I have some ideas for how I'm going to actually build out this page to make it a little bit extra. So I'm going to actually delete the title here and make a couple changes. Give your tweet a short title. So we're going to click on record rules, and we're going to create two rules actually here. So rule number one is going to be to generate the tweet. Rule number two is going to be generate the image. And we're going to start to add our pipes. The first one, right, we're just going to use the Q&A because that's totally fine. It works just as well. And we're going to choose a record value and then the value that we want to return or save is going to be saved into the tweet content field. And we're going to set it to a pipe response of O response. Okay. The next one is for the image. So we're going to do essentially the same thing, but we're going to choose a different method or a different function this time around, where we're going to choose generate image, and we're going to feed it the same type of parameters here. I'm not going to worry about the total or the size. I'm going to leave these as default for now. We're going to just send the actual prompt. So this is going to be the record value of the Dolly image prompt. And then we're actually saving this back to two places. Remember, we're going to save the link that gets responded to us from OpenAPI. We're going to save that link to an actual link field so that we can display the image. And then we're going to also save it to tweet image text. We're going to save this to a text field so that we can then pass it to Twitter. Okay. So we're going to save it in both of those places, and that's it. All right. Now, speaking of rules, I just want to jump back to the data builder for a moment, and I'm just going to set some table rules to set some of like these utility fields. Okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to say when a record is created, we are going to set created on to current date and time. And we're going to set the status to unsent. And we're going to set, I was going to say is scheduled to a table rule, but we actually we don't need to do that. Let's not do that there. Let's do the scheduled value from the form. So we'll go back to the form here for just a moment, and we'll add just one more rule just to keep this all separate. And we will say is scheduled. We'll update this to no. Okay, so this form is we're generating the tweet and we're not scheduling it when we're using OpenAPI. And the reason is because the links that get returned from Dolly actually expire after a while. Okay, so it's a matter of a couple minutes. I didn't time it exactly, but probably 5 or 10 minutes, that link will actually expire. So we're going to generate the tweet, review the tweet, make sure it's all good to go, and then send the tweet. So that's going to be kind of in one action in like a single phase kind of thing. You can't let those links just sit and come back to that tweet in a few days, because that link will then be expired and the generated image won't be there anymore. So yeah, right, so that's why we are saying, for here, we're not scheduling this particular tweet. This kind of AI generation is kind of a real-time thing. We're going to generate it and send it. Okay, so that's the tweet generator, the basis of actually creating the records. Okay, so now what we're going to do is make this page look cool. Okay, so in order to do this, we need a way to display the actual tweets that get created. And the way that I'm going to do this is I'm going to use the custom component, because I want to display my tweets as if they were actually tweets. Okay, but you can do the same thing using a table component or a list component. I just wanted to use a custom component because I thought it would be kind of cool. So let me finish with this particular column here, right? We're splitting this page into two different columns. The left-hand side of the page has the actual form. And then above it is going to be, just going to be some text content in an HTML component that lets the user know what this is for, right? I deleted the form title and I'm essentially creating my own. So we have a little robot emoji generate tweet, and we're just describing what we're doing, and that's going to just sit right above the form. Okay, now the next thing we're going to do is add the display component to the right. Okay, so we'll add a new component and resize this just so it fits, right? I did 7 out of 12 on the left, so I have to do 5 out of 12 on the right so that we get a full width row here. All right, so now we're going to add our custom components and another kind of description in an HTML component above it. Okay, so this is going to be for our tweet previews, and we want to make sure that we know what we're looking at. So we're going to create that HTML component, put in whatever text we want, and then we'll choose the custom component. So the way the custom component works is that it's going to loop through all of the records in the chosen data table just like any other component would, except we have the ability to customize this completely with custom code. So I went online and I found I found someone who could created kind of a mock-up of a tweet using just HTML and CSS. So I copied it and I can use this here within this custom component. Couple slight modifications that were made to it, but other than that, it works just fine. So we need to then feed this record values. So I'm going to go through and just replace my record values with the individual parts of this code, and then I'm just going to show you what it looks like when we go and test this page. But again, you can do this with a list component. You can do this with a table component. The point here is that we just want to preview the tweets before they get sent, right? Don't put all your faith in OpenAI and their generation, because otherwise you might send some stuff that maybe you didn't really want to send. So at this point, we're actually ready to preview this. Okay, so I think we're good to go. Let's give it a test and see what we come up with. Okay, so we're going to give this tweet a short title. So let's say chart component updates. That's a name or title for this tweet. And we'll say create a tweet to announce updates to Tadabase's chart component. Okay, and for the image, we need to give it some sort of some values to kind of work with to generate an image. So we'll say I don't know what we need to say. How about a report with a pie chart and a bar chart. And let's see what this comes up with. So we're going to hit save, right? And then inside of the record rules, we have these two pipes running. The tweet was generated, and it was generated with both the content and the image. So it did an okay job. Tadabase's chart component just got an update. Check out the new features. Now, some things are a little bit weird, like it puts a semicolon there, right? But there's nothing listed below it. But the image is actually totally fine here. So what we have now is we need the to finish our edit form, right? So we can edit the tweet if we need to. Like in this case, I'll just remove the colon there because it's not necessary. And if I didn't like this tweet at all, I can just delete it. Okay, so we will edit our edit form. And in this case, we'll just kind of display the content in a reasonable way here. So we'll just do like the tweet title and when it was created. And then down here, we'll do, if we want to change the URL, so if there was some other image that we wanted to put in here, then we'll do that there. The actual tweet content will change here. And that's actually it. So we'll add another row down here, and then we'll just now build the spot where we can mark this tweet to be sent. Okay, so we're going to add some HTML here, say publish tweet, set the status to sent, to send the tweet. Okay, and then we will include our tweet status field here. And in our rules, now we're going to trigger the Twitter pipe. And we're only going to trigger that particular pipe when the tweet status is sent. Okay, now for the pipe, we're going to choose Twitter. We're going to choose send a tweet with an image, feed it two parameters. One is the file URL and one is the content. The URL comes from the tweet image text, and the content comes from tweet content. Okay, now we need to save a couple values here. Okay, so we are going to save the tweet ID. That comes from the pipe response of the ID. And then we're going to save, okay, so you know how I said that the Dolly created images will actually expire after a little while? So once the tweet's actually created, there's going to be a new URL for that particular image that's now hosted through Twitter. So we're going to return that value and save it back to our image link and image text field so that now we have a more permanent link to see what image was sent with this tweet. Okay, so we will set the Twitter image, tweet image link to a pipe response. Now, there's a ton of responses that get sent back from Twitter. The one that we're looking for the actual pipe response for the image link is entities, media, 0, and media URL. Okay, we'll also save this back to that image text field. So same value, we'll save it to both places so that we have it, media URL. And then we need to also save the raw URL to the tweet itself. And that comes from this one here, entities, media, 0 media URL HTTPS. So um, that's how we can save all those values. Again, if you go and look in the pipe, so if we go into the pipe section of Tadabase, trigger this pipe or test this pipe, and you can then see the full response, then you'll see what values you might need to save. Okay, you'll see where the URLs are outputted and all the different content that gets returned from Twitter. All right, so we're good to go on this. Let's preview this page again, and I'm going to edit this now. And right, if I want to change this, so yeah, I'm going to just remove the colon there and whatever blank space is here through that particular creation. And now we can just say sent, and um, that should have actually posted to Twitter. All right, jumping over to Twitter now, you can see that this is, in fact, a live tweet. Okay, so we're done with that particular section of generating the tweet content and the image, and building a way to then either delete the tweet, preview the tweet, or review the tweet, and then eventually send the tweet. Okay, so if we go back to our application now, the next thing we want to set up is the actual tweet scheduler. So this is going to be the second kind of piece to this puzzle. The generation is very, very cool, but you might want to do this in a more manual and thought out process of creating the tweet itself and manually uploading the image manually and then scheduling the tweet. So say every Friday you're going to tweet about a certain subject or something, then you can schedule it that way. And that actually just gave me an idea. So this is going to be the tweet scheduler. Let's go back and add one more. Oh, and I just realized I forgot to do something here. So we have, okay, first things first. Let's do like a tweet category or something. So let's say we're tweeting about blog posts, and we're tweeting about platform updates, and we're tweeting about industry news. Okay, we're going to create that field so that we can mark each record with a particular tweet category, and then we can report on that later. The other thing I realized I forgot to do was update the tweeted field here so that we know when it was actually tweeted. So we're going to go back into our edit form here where we're sending the tweet, and we're going to add one more value here where we're going to set the value of the tweeted field to current date and time. And then just so we have a value here, we'll just fill this in like that. Okay, tweet scheduler, right. So this is going to be another kind of like two-part page where on the left-hand side, we're going to have a form to fill out. On the right-hand side, we're going to have a calendar so that we can actually view the upcoming tweets and their particular statuses and stuff. Okay, so let's do, like I said, a form on the left. Again, we're just adding a new tweet. In this case, let's see, we'll just use the regular title for now. And we're going to do the tweet title, the content. Now remember, in this case, we're using the tweet image. This is a more manual process. We're not using AI at all to generate things. So we're likely going to just be uploading photos rather than generating and returning a link. And scheduled for. Now, things we're going to update here in the back end, like behind the scenes, is that yes, this is going to be a scheduled tweet. So just by nature of the form, when we submit it, we are implying that it's going to be scheduled. Okay, so is scheduled custom value? Yes. That's it, I think. Oh, tweet status, let's send to unsent. Um, great, so that's it for the form. Now let's get the calendar set up. So we'll make this a little bit smaller. We don't need it to be that large. And then we will put in the calendar to the right. What size do I want this? Yeah, 4 is fine. Okay, calendar, we'll add a column to the right, and we'll make sure that this gets set to 8 so that we have 12 out of 12 going across. All right, and then we can add our calendar component to look at all of the tweets. And we are going to make sure that the date field is changed to scheduled for, right? So this is the value that's going to make records appear on the calendar. And we want them to be kind of sorted by, or we want to apply the scheduled for date field in this particular case. And this is also a good reason why we did the tweet title, is because we want to display like the tweet on the actual calendar, but the tweet content might be too long to display. So we're just going to show the short title. We can add a detail view if we want to for this particular calendar, where we can then show information about the tweet. So the title, content, the image, and when it was created. How about that? So this will be a pop-up detail. So when you're looking through everything in the actual calendar, you can see which tweet is which, more details about that particular tweet. And the last thing that we'll do is set up some label color rules. Okay, so this calendar will not only show future tweets that are scheduled and unsent, but it will also show past tweets that have already gone through this process and are now sent. So we will use the tweet status field to set different color values. So if tweet status is unsent, we'll make sure that the color is red, just to indicate that it has not been sent yet. And then if the tweet status is sent, then we'll choose a different color to indicate success or something, right? And that will be green. Okay, so that's all we need to do for the calendar. Double checking. Yeah, that's totally fine. We could also include or enable drag and drop. So if you want to reschedule it, then we can just move the record directly on the calendar to reschedule when it is scheduled for. Okay, so that's going to show us our tweets. So let's create a couple now, and this will be, I don't know, blog post. Oh, sure, we'll just call it blog post. Oh, you know what? That reminds me. There's one more thing I want to add on this form is the tweet category. So, and we could add that back on the other one here. So this is going to be the tweet category. Great. Okay. That just gives us some more information to work with. All right. So we'll preview this again. This right blog post. And we are looking at category, right? Blog posts. And we'll say, oh, right. I almost said create a tweet for OpenAI, but whatever the tweet content may be, like, check out our newest blog post on how no code platforms have improved the service industry. Just something, okay? And then we can upload that image and schedule it, okay? So let's say it's scheduled just for instructional sake. We'll schedule it for today, okay? All right, so now this is now scheduled. You can see it on our calendar. And the other part of this is actually setting up the automation to send these tweets. All right, so we're going to set up a scheduled task to do that. And that's located in the automation tab and scheduled tasks. So let's set up a task. And this is going to be send scheduled tweets. Now, what we will do is we'll set this up on the tweets table and we'll set it on a schedule. So say daily at, I don't know, pick a time, 10 a.m. or something. Um, every day it's going to look through the tweets table. Okay. It's going to look at all the records. And if the record is unsent and um, it is scheduled and scheduled for is today. Okay, we're checking those three things. The tweet has not been sent. It is currently marked as scheduled, and the scheduled date is today. Then we're going to run the Twitter pipe, send a tweet with an image. The file is going to come from the actual file field now, so tweet image, and the content is going to come from our content field. Okay, and then we're going to do the same thing that we did in the edit form where we are setting the ID to the pipe response of the ID, and we're going to set the tweet image link to one of Twitter's responses that holds that particular link, which I believe is this one. I have to go back and look. Um, this one with the HTTPS. And then we're also set it into our text field just to be consistent. Um, this one, and then our actual tweet link, tweet URL comes from that one right there. Okay, awesome. Nope, not done. More stuff to update. Then we need to make sure that it is set to, we update the tweeted date time field to current date and time, and the tweet status to a custom value of sent. All right, so that'll modify the record so that it makes sure that it won't be picked up the next time the task runs. All right, so that's good there. And then I guess finally we could just test this. So let's run the task. Should have found one record, completed one record. Great. So if we go back to this fake profile here, you can see here's our tweet. So imagine that this is scheduled a couple days in the future. That task will run every day. Look for records. When it matches all the criteria, it will just send the tweet. Okay. Um, Great. So that's perfect. That's exactly what we need for this. And the last thing I want to do here is I want to set up a dashboard page so that we can grab all of the values, like the most recent retweets, like counts and stuff, and report on all of the tweets that we're actually sending. So we'll add a new page, and this will be our tweet dashboard. And in this page, we're going to set this up with a few different components. You can use chart components, table components. In this case, I'm going to use a search component so that we can actually search through or filter tweets. So maybe on the tweet title, when it was tweeted, and the tweet category. Okay, so if you want to search for tweets based on those things, you can do that. Then we'll add, I have an idea for what I'm going to do for two things here. But I'm also going to add let's add another row with two columns. I'll do some charts and we'll do some custom components, and we'll also do a table. So the table is just going to be a list of all of our tweets. And we can do some cool stuff here with the table where we can say, well, this is going to be published or sent, well, tweets, that's fine. Let's see, total retweets we want to see, total favorites we want to see, the tweet title, the tweet, no, we don't need the tweet title, the tweet content. How about the category and the actual URL so that we can go view the particular tweet if we want to. Now, the total retweets, total favorites, what we can do is we can use and when it was tweeted, there we go. We can use display rules inside of this table component to display an icon on this particular field. Now that icon isn't saved in the database anywhere, right? But we can just dynamically do this here. So in display rules, we're going to say, we're going to run a condition basically on a field that is never going to be blank. So tweeted, right? When the tweet was tweeted. If it's not blank, which it's never going to be blank, we're going to display an icon. And for this one, because it's retweets, we're going to search for that icon and set that icon. And then we'll do the same thing for the total favorites, where if tweeted is not blank, then display an icon. And in this case, it's just a heart. Heart. Okay. Very cool. That's what we need there. And we'll make sure that this is connected to the search component. Now, the other two things that we're going to do here are going to be custom components, and we're going to do this styled as like top tweets, right? Like these are your most highest performing tweets. Let's add a top tweets. Okay, on the left, we'll show the same kind of custom component that we had from the other page, where we just want to make this look like a, we just want to make this look like an actual tweet. So what we're going to do for this is we're going to kind of be clever about this. Now, how do we filter this to show that we only want to display one tweet, right? And whichever tweet has the highest amount of retweets. So to do that, we're just going to filter the data source, and we are going to sort it by total retweets, make sure that it's descending so that it goes from highest to lowest. And then in the options of this custom component, we're just going to limit it to one record. Okay, so sort by most retweets and then limit it to one record, which means they're only going to get the top performing tweet for that particular criteria. Now, the next one we're going to do is for likes. Now, like I said, I'm going to make sure that I include all of this, this content, and maybe we'll even just make this a template application for people to install. But the custom component, again, not necessary. You can do the same thing with a list component, and it will still look beautiful. So we're going to get this particular custom component set up in the same way that we did before, where we have sort by, in this case, total favorites, and filter, or I'm sorry, limit to one particular record. All right, so that's going to give us our top tweets. And then down here, we'll do at least one. Let's do a pie chart that will show us our tweet categories. So which ones, there it is, tweet categories. And we'll say, let's see, this is going to be, what's our label? Well, categories, I guess, is fine. And how many tweets there were per category. Okay, so tweets per category, and we'll change our theme here too. So let's see what each theme looks like. So we have one. Let's try theme 2, see how that works. Okay, so there's one chart, and then the other chart we'll do a bar chart. And in this case, we'll look at categories again, tweet category. But this time we'll see like which category had the most amount of retweets and most amount of favorites. So a dual series chart here for total favorites and total retweets. And we'll make this a column, and we'll stack it, and we'll change our theme again here. Let's try the same theme number 2 and see if that matches there. See what that looks like. And I think we're good to go. So actually the last thing we need to do is just make sure that our search component is connected to everything here, our 2 custom components and our 2 charts. Okay, so this means if we want to look at particular categories here, we'll see our 2 top performing tweets. We'll see our charts that are then filtered by that same category. and our table will be filtered by that category as well. So let's preview this page now and see how this all looks. And then we are moving on to our last step, which is populating our retweets and favorites so that we can have this operational dashboard. In order to do so, we are going to set up another scheduled task. This task is going to run through, we'll call this sync tweets. So we're going to run this on the tweets table, and this one's going to be run on demand. And what we're going to do is we're going to update the record, and we're going to trigger the Twitter pipe again, and we will choose get tweet status. Now we need to feed this pipe a record value of our tweet ID, which is why it was so important that we save it back to the actual record. And then what we need to set here is a field that I didn't create yet. Let's go do that now. We're going to set a date time field to last updated, or we'll say last sync is fine. And go back to automation, the sync tweets, and we're going to set total retweets to a pipe response of total retweets, total favorites, pipe response, total favorites, and we will also set that last sync field to a current date and time so that we know when this has been run. Okay, now the other thing we're going to do is on the actual dashboard page, we are going to include a task component. Okay, right here, we'll drag that onto the page, and we'll give the user the ability to run this task directly from the page on demand. Okay, so this will say sync tweet stats. Okay, and success message will say tweets have been refreshed. Or how about stats loaded? Please refresh your page. Okay. And then below that, what we'll do is we'll try to be creative about this. We will, let's see, we're actually going to use another custom component. Let me work this out. So, whoops, that's HTML. So this, we're kind of, well, we're trying to be as clever as we can. So we're going to do the same kind of filtering that we did with those two top performing tweets, where we're limiting the output of the component to only one record, and then we're sorting it by a particular thing to get a max value. So we'll do a list again of tweets, and we can use something like this where we say for each record, we're going to say the last updated and then output the last sync time. Now this is going to be sorted by last sync, and last sync is not blank. Okay, because again, we're looking at all of the tweet records here, but we're focusing on this one field where the field is not blank. It's sorted by the max or most recent time, and then we're going to output only one record. So what that's going to do is when we preview this page, right now there is no synced records. But we can run this task now from the live app. So when we click this button, it's going to look through all those records. And you can see stats loaded. Please refresh your page. You can now see that we're filtering all of the tweet records and only showing the most recent last synced value. And in this case, they're all the same. But once you start to add more tweets here, the values are going to be different. So we want to show when the most recent one was. And you can see here, total retweets, total favorites is 0, 0. Okay, but let's go into here. Let's do this. We'll just make this. I'll give myself a like here. Okay. So we have, let's see, we have, let's do one favorite here and one retweet Oh, I don't actually want to retweet these. Okay, so I just actually went on another account and I gave them some values. We'll run this again, and you'll see now that we have da, 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 one favorite here, one favorite there. Okay, so we don't have a tweet that has the most amount of retweets, but just to kind of mock this a little bit, if I go into these particular tweets, and let's say this tweet has 45 retweets and 250 likes, and this one has, um, whoops, that's the same record. Sorry about that. This one has 22 retweets and 350 likes. Okay, when we go back to our dashboard here, now, I'm not going to sync it because that's going to pull data from Twitter directly. Um, but once we look at it like this, you can see now that, right, our charts are working as intended. Let's go and change a category here. So that's blog posts. This one will be for platform updates. There we go. 2 tweets, one from each category. Here's our charts. This one shows us the one with the most um, retweets and the most likes and all of our tweets down below. Okay, and then if we want to search for things, you can see tweet is blog post. Then it's going to filter out all of the components on the page and show us things just for that particular category. Okay, so I want to thank you for sticking with me through this video. It looks like we're running long today. That's it for this week's episode of Build It with Tim, and we'll see you next week. Take care, everybody.